Hush now, darling, the moon's gone blind.
Chapter 8. Seeds. The suggestion was innocent enough, I believe. Dad proposed a camping trip up to the base of Mount Evans. He thought it would be a fun adventure to pack our bikes and ride up for the night and really earn the privilege to say, "I'm roughing it." I agreed, and we started making arrangements, going to REI to pick up panniers and a rack for my motobecane. He already had most of his gear that he bought a long time ago in order to accessorize his gloves and helmet. So the trip to REI was for my benefit, and I added a sleeping bag, utensils, pocket knife, and camping kit. And a couple of weeks later, our bikes packed, we were starting our climb out of Morrison and along Lower Bear Creek. But this adventure carried the weight of ugly consequences of divorce, and my mind wandered back, fueled by the difficult efforts of the climb. "Hey, Paul," my dad asked while we were taking inventory for our trip. Dad had all of our supplies lined up on the floor of the apartment, organized and separated. He was excited for this trip. "Yeah?" I asked. "You know that two-man camping trip I bought for my bike?" he asked. "I have no idea what you're talking about," I fired back. Dad had a habit of speaking in riddles. Still does. "Well, I bought a little two-man tent so Mom and I could go camping sometime. And you know how that turned out, right?" I sat in the dining room eating from our inventory of frozen McDonald's hamburgers. I let his question bounce off and just waited for the question he really wanted answered. "I think I left it at Mom's house. You remember the night we were trying to get our stuff?" I took a bite of my hamburger and another of the reheated fries. "Anyway," he continued, "it should still be in the closet in the bedroom by the garage. Do you mind getting it when you see your mom tonight?" "Sure," I said, finally able to answer an actual question. I didn't need to work for a couple of days and made plans to spend them with Mom, but I decided to make a quick trip up there in the afternoon just to grab the tent and bring it back. There was a hole slotted for the tent in Dad's organization system of panniers, dried food, sleeping bags, camping kits that sat empty, and my OCD brain kicked in and just wanted to get that empty slot filled. Later that day, I returned to Evergreen. She was in the kitchen preparing our dinner, a hearty stew made from rice, fresh pork, beans, and potatoes. Hey, Mom, that smells delicious," I said, sitting in the bar stool. "Where's Chris?"
"Hi, sweetie."
She set her ladle on the counter, walked over, and gave me a kiss on the cheek.
"Chrissy is at her friend's house. We have the place to ourselves tonight."
She gave me a smile. I didn't have too many chances to see Mom these days, with work and school and cycling, but now that school was out for the summer, I wanted to spend more time with her. I was happy in this moment, but the powerful memories of living in the basement and my difficulties in middle school always resonated more strongly here, in this house, like the gentle vibrations of a subwoofer after the volume was turned up. I often wondered when the next time would be when I would need to confront depression again. It was nice to be home, but I always had to prepare for those feelings and try to ground myself to reason. Watching Mom cooking and smelling the familiar sense of home made this a bit easier. "Hey, Mom?" I asked.
"Yes, Polly Wally Woo."
A nickname I am now remembering, trying to force it back down. Ugh. "I just wanted to let you know that I came over earlier and grabbed Dad's camping tent. We're going to ride up to Mount Evans next week and stay a night," I said, excited to let her know of Dad and my big adventure.
"You did what?"
She stopped stirring. The question was much louder than I expected. "Dad's backpack tent, the one he bought for his bike. I grabbed it because we're trying to pack our bikes for the trip," I said, trying to be careful with my words. Her expression changed much too quickly. Her eyes showed, what was it? Rage? I slid off the stool. "What do you mean you took it?" Her voice rose sharply.
You went into my house when I wasn't here and took something that doesn't belong to you?
Mom, it's just Dad's tent.
Just Dad's tent? Just Dad's tent?
The ladle shook in her hand.
So now you're his little spy? Sneaking in here, taking things when I'm not around?
Her face flushed red.
Everything in this house is mine now. Your father doesn't live here anymore.
He didn't leave, Mom.
Don't you dare!
She screamed.
I cannot believe you would betray me like this. My own son, stealing from me. What else has he asked you to take? What else have you been sneaking out of here?
She advanced on me, the ladle now a weapon.
You're just his little puppet, aren't you? Manipulated by whatever Daddy tells you to do now?
My demon awoke, and in the back of my mind,
Get out.
I backed away, but she followed, swinging the ladle. Mom, stop!
Don't you tell me to stop. I'll teach you to steal from me.
She chased me toward the door, the ladle whistling past my ear. I blocked her strikes as I retreated, but her rage only grew. Outside now, I fumbled for my car keys. She lunged at me, trying to grab my arm.
You're not too old for a spanking, young man. Get over here.
I dodged, but she came at me again, attempting to knee me in the groin. Mom, please, stop! Flashbacks of Palatine snapped into my mind, little and defenseless, the threats of, when your father gets home, I'll make sure he smacks you with his belt. And those threats came true, Dad bending me over his lap and hitting my bare behind with his black leather work belt. I cried, No, Mom, no! Pleading for her to rescue me from Dad. I was apparently asking the wrong person. I'm not going to let you hit me! I yelled, my demon surfacing, happy. I pushed her away. I also remembered the wooden paddle that hung in the basement kitchen that was etched with a wood-burning kit to warn bad kids of their impending discipline. Attitude adjuster, and the time when Mom broke her favorite wooden spoon on my ass and got pissed at me again because my ass broke her spoon. Laugh now, it wasn't funny then. Mom stumbled backwards from my push, shocked that this could happen, that I was no longer a child but turning into a man. Her rage turned to sorrow, and she stood there quivering. I jumped in the Rustmobile, fired it up with a roar, and got the fuck out of there. And this was all going through my head on a beautiful Colorado summer day, doing what I loved most, riding my bike, as Dad and I pushed our way up the hill and into the mountains. After arriving home from our long adventure, Dad was sore after having cramped during the final climb up to the 11,000-foot Squaw Pass summit. We finished the climb, my hand on his back gently pushing and giving him the motivation to pedal through the pain. That night, rain on our two-man tent, we drifted to sleep, thoughts on the complete adventure it took to get us here. Dad and I weren't just unpacking our bikes at home, we were also packing for our next move. He took me to the new house he had rented, explaining to me how he wanted to provide a normal life for me and my sister. Our two-bedroom apartment with the sleeper sofa that Leslie and I made out on just didn't provide the family environment he wanted to try and rebuild. I knew this somehow, but still didn't want to give this place up. I opened the sleeper sofa up to pack the sheets and pillows we had stuffed inside, and it creaked, the springs stretching, revealing the linens I needed. There was also a used ace bandage folded into the sheets. My mind again swirling back to the beginning of summer on my fateful ride to Vail, Colorado. 10 Mile Canyon bike trail rolled under my tires as I was climbing up to Copper Mountain. On my way to meet Dad in Vail, he was visiting with friends. I thought it would be fun and impressive to roll up to their hotel in my cycling swag, dismount, and exploit my T-Rex figure and answer the questions that only cyclists get. How can you ride so far? Aren't those mountains too steep? The climb to Copper isn't steep, but it's steady. I was geared high, keeping the pace up. My helmet strapped to my handlebars for the slow ascent, like the pros did, when another cyclist slowly grinded past me, calling out, "On your left!" On your left, I thought. I'd never heard that before. Who'd dare pass me? So I got on his wheel and waited for him to tire out. We took turns pulling, trading places from front to rear, really digging in now, making the climb very difficult but fast. Two cyclists with demons driving them, sucking in carrots and spitting them out. A carrot is a term describing any cyclist on the horizon that motivates you to push harder to catch up to. You'll hear more of that term later. Both pretty tired, we arrived in Copper for a brief refrain from the climb. Tourists, intersections, and flat riding slowed our roll, and we started a brief conversation, trying to subdue the breathing. Neither of us wanted each other to know our suffering. The trail pitched down before the next big climb up Vail Pass. Our speeds increased. We were on a section of the path where it blended with a wider utility road. He sped up. I got on his wheel, and soon we were descending at 40 miles per hour. The thin mountain air was cooler here, and the wind and sweat chilled my body. I was locked on his wheel, focused, forgetting the cardinal rule of drafting: don't look at the wheel. Whatever is in front of the rider is in front of you and are the most important things to look out for. Like life, the road throws shit at you when you're least prepared to deal with it, and the road is a cynical bitch wanting to dismount you from your bike at every opportunity. I took my eye off his wheel and focused ahead, only to notice that the road narrowed back into a trail and a sharp right-hand bend was approaching at 45 miles per hour. I saw the bend, my eyes widened. I was not in the right spot to navigate that turn, and my speed was much too high. I grabbed my brake levers, but not in time, as I watched my front wheel touch the edge of the trail, hit gravel, and everything else that followed was out of my control. The steep, rocky embankment that dropped off quickly to the left of the trail grabbed me, and my destiny was fated to its mercy, or lack thereof. For the briefest of time, more a time outside of time, a quantum opportunity for life to reveal itself, the cat is both alive and dead in the box until you open it. I saw my helmet still strapped to my handlebars. Alive and dead at the same time, I rolled down the hill, smashing into rocks, grass, gravel, seeing the sky, the ground, the sky, the ground, and listening to my voice cry out in a scream until the spinning finally stopped and I found myself 50 feet down the embankment from the path. The guy I was riding with didn't even realize I had crashed. Somewhere out there, he's writing a book about how he dropped me. I looked around. I was still alive. My feet strapped into the pedals, I felt around my body to see if anything was broken. I seemed to still be in one piece. I reached down to loosen my pedals and felt a pinch of pain in my back and rear. Groaning and moving quietly, I gingerly scooched down the hill a bit to grab my water bottle. It had been thrown free of its cage. Then back to my bike. I grabbed the top tube and started dragging it up the hill, my back and rear hurting a little more. At the top, two cyclists sprinting up the hill. "Dude, are you okay?" one asked. "I think so," I said. "Do you need any help?" they said. I think I'm okay, thanks. They stopped long enough to make sure my bike was in one piece too. Tires had air, no broken spokes, no cracked frame. It looks like everything is good to go, one said. You sure you don't need anything? He looked into my eyes. Maybe something was wrong. Vail isn't too far. I think I'm okay, I said. Ah, damn, you young kids are something else, he exclaimed. Be safe, and they took off in the opposite direction. There was a bit of climbing left to the summit, about 1,000 feet vertical. My back and ass complained, each pedal stroke more antagonizing than the last, like a blister forming on your toe during a hike. But, once at the summit, a long no-pedal effort into Vail. My memory from this point on gets more and more groggy as the hit to the head from one of those rocks left me with a concussion that I wasn't aware of, and apparently a look of delirium I wasn't aware of either, because at the bottom of the trail and at an intersection, an old couple in their Lincoln pulled over and asked me if I needed help. I explained to them that I had been in a crash and was looking for the hotel where I was meeting Dad. What hotel, dear? The old woman asked. I'm not sure. I don't remember the name. I blanked. Why can't I remember? It's something like a German name? Do you remember where it is? She asked, her husband loading my bike in the trunk. It's close to the path, but I don't know the street. Hank, she shouted, do you know the name of a hotel with a She was cut off.
Maybe guest house?
He said. Does that ring a bell? She asked. I think so. Sounds about right. The drive there just put me into more of a daze as my head swam with images of trees passing, light flashing, and I felt every turn from the car. Everything was feeling sore and tight. We arrived at the guest house, and she ran inside to make sure we were at the right place, asking the front desk if the names of my dad's friends were checked in. They were. Hank unloaded my bike out of the trunk and handed it to me.
I can't believe how light these things are. Can't believe you guys are riding on these skinny tires, too,
he said.
Good luck, son.
Standing up and getting out of the car was incredibly painful, my back and my hips so sore. My shoulder down to my hip knotted and on fire. From there, I remember getting to the hotel room and laying in the recliner and falling asleep. I remember Dad waking me up and demanding, "Don't sleep!" his Air Force medic training kicking in. "Let's get in the pool where it's cool. This will help with the swelling." I remember the cold water and my intense discomfort, my body shaking. I remember freezing and finally laying back into the recliner. I remember being woken up, Dad saying, "It's time to go." I also remember that I could not move. I could not get out of the chair. My body was on lockdown, too much pain. I remember him carrying me to the truck and buckling me up. My shoulder wouldn't let me. And last, I remember him carrying me up 3 flights of stairs to lay me down on this foldable sofa that I was now getting ready to move from our apartment. Our new home was about as far north as the Denver Metro went. Built in a new subdivision that reminded me a lot of the one in Palatine, there was new construction, new homes being built, new apartments. This part of the Metro was spreading like mold on a wet piece of bread. Our home was small, but with 2 stories and a proper 3-bedroom floor plan, 2 upstairs and the master on the bottom. The lower floor had a small, isolated kitchen in the corner of the house, a living area that spanned to the front door, and directly behind the living space, a half wall and the stairs that went up. Between my sister's and my room was a second bathroom. Pretty simple, quaint, not exciting. The backyard was surrounded by a 6-foot cedar fence and no grass. No, this wasn't Palatine. But The new rental had a community center with a swimming pool and a racquetball court that was about a block away. In between, the mailboxes where I had eagerly run to look for the latest letter from Beverly. Leslie and I broke up not long after our intimacy and our failed attempt at sex. Neither of us knew what the fuck we were doing, and she moved on to greener pastures. But Beverly, that's where it was at. Our letters to each other became longer, more revealing, more intimate, outlining our lives and our feelings, our problems with friends and family. Our letters became journals to ourselves. They became therapy and warranted trust to the deepest levels. Each handwritten, during a time when we knew each other's feelings, not from emojis, but from how the letter was written. Was it neat and in line with the ruling? Was it unorganized and passionate writing across lines, without the confines of rules? Were we drawing hearts? Were the eyes dotted with hearts, or did they have nothing at all? Handwritten letters were as much about art and emotion as they were about the message itself. Something lost in the digital future that was still years away. Our neighborhood had a few kids and a few teenagers, and we roamed the streets protected by the confines of suburbia. We met at the pool, played racquetball, rode bikes, and explored the construction sites in the evening after the workers had all left. I found a road sign there and tied it to the corner of my waterbed. Now, with her own bedroom and other kids her age, my sister was down more frequently and found that her time there was a missing piece of life that she couldn't enjoy in the mountains. Just her and Mom in one big, empty house compared to here, a small, cozy house, kids in the neighborhood, and cozy rooms where each head was on a pillow sharing dreams of the day. Cody, a young 14-year-old boy, and I often played racquetball, and he was an excellent player. He and I played after school and on the weekends, then went to relax in the swimming pool and hot tub. My sister would be innocently waiting for us to finish so she could gaze longingly at Cody. He was a cute kid, but I didn't know what she saw in him. He was skinny and nerdy like myself during middle school. Chris was an evergreen when she called me to ask how I was doing, what I was doing. I wasn't used to her calls. Usually we ignored each other. Now it was like, "Ring!" "Hello," I answered.
Hey, Paul, it's Christine.
"Duh," I said.
Shut up. What are you doing?
She asked. "Watching TV. What's up?"
I'm at Mom's. I'm bored.
She said.
And last night, I was freaked out a little.
"Why? What happened?" I asked.
I saw a ghost.
She said. I wasn't too surprised. My sister was often in touch with something beyond the reality of most ears and eyes.
This house is too empty, too quiet. I hear noises and sounds, and I swear to God, when I got up and left my room, I saw a ghost fly past me in and out the doors from the living room.
"Where's Mom?" I asked. Mom was attending the community college in Golden, and she'd often stay late or spend time with friends. She was working on her psyche nursing degree, and the psyche part was calling to her. My sister, now almost 14, would find herself alone in a mansion, and her fears grew. Something about that place. Maybe she saw Davy's ghost imbued in the walls of that home.
I don't know. School, maybe?
"Want me to come get you?" I asked.
No, Mom should be home soon. I just wanted to talk. See how you are, how Cody is.
"We're all fine," I said. "Look, just come down whenever you want. Let me know. I'll come up. It's no big deal," I said, and we ended our conversation. I was beginning to worry about Chris, and we were also beginning to grow a little closer, sharing the interests that teens tend to grow into. I remember exactly how I felt confined to the mountains and the claustrophobia while in them. Here in Westminster, I was free to ride, free to continue exploring my world, a slightly new world from before, closer to Regis, and a manageable bike ride to Boulder, the capital of U.S. cycling. I was riding now much more than driving. The gas tank of my Rustmobile sat 1/4 empty most of the time. I didn't make enough money to put in gas that only got me 10 miles to the gallon. But the reality was, cycling was far more enjoyable and a better means to connect with the world around me. One day in Boulder, I found the wheel of Davis Finney and Connie Carpenter and a friend of theirs. She looked back at me and said, "Stay on if you can." I couldn't, and they rode me off their wheel like a leaf in a windstorm. I rode my bike to Regis almost daily, parked it in the janitor's room, and arrived at my first class, trigonometry, sweaty and exhausted, but never late. Winter arrived, and while my friendship with Steve and his girlfriend Bev continued, his investment in his relationship trumped mine with him. But, honestly, I was almost too busy myself. The friends I made at school grew closer. Timmy, Eric, Mike, and I made more time after school to play football in the snow, sliding over the field. Eric trying to secure my T-Rex legs, but my power easily stepping out from the tackle. Timmy would still drag me like a Raggedy Andy doll across the field, my toes making 2 distinct lines in the snow. And I met Kevin. Kevin was a kid in my theology class, and I don't know why I was drawn to him. His face had hard features, a square jaw, and eyes set deep into his head. And, like the entirety of the Regis population, hair delicately feathered back in the iconic 80s prep boy look. "Are you German?" I asked him. His features looked strikingly German. He looked at me quizzically, raised an eyebrow, and smiled.
You know, it's interesting that you asked me that. I'm not, but I really want to travel to Germany, maybe even move there. Why do you ask?
"I'm psychic," I joked. "No, you just look German to me. My mom's from Germany, not like that has anything to do with you." His legs were crossed. I saw he was wearing a pair of New Balance running shoes. "Hey, same shoes as mine," I said.
Yeah.
He lit up, more than I expected.
These are the most comfortable shoes I've ever had.
And from that simple conversation, that simple moment that was soon to be interrupted by Father Houlihan's attempt to turn us into God-fearing people, Kevin and I became best friends. We found each other again outside of a Regis school dance where neither of us had any luck meeting Marycrest girls. We decided to walk off campus and to Federal, a busy road with unique dining. Our destination? The 28-cent hamburger stand. Leaving the dance behind us, Kevin and I walked through the college campus toward Federal Boulevard. The autumn air had a bite to it, making me glad for my trench coat, even if the fathers had spent half the night eyeing the Cure pornography album art I'd drawn on the back like it might summon demons. "Well, that was a complete waste of $3, I said, kicking a rock along the sidewalk.
$4.
Kevin corrected.
They raised the price this year.
Even better, I laughed. $4 to watch Father Martinez do the electric slide to "I Can't Go For That."
At least he had better moves than you.
Kevin said with his characteristic deadpan delivery.
What was that thing you were doing during Little Red Corvette?
That was dancing, prep boy. You should try it sometime instead of standing against the wall doing calculus in your head.
I was doing trig, actually.
He smiled slightly.
And studying how the social dynamics formed perfect geometric patterns on the dance floor. Did you notice how the hairy chess girls maintained a consistent radius from any boy who approached?
Yeah, and that radius got twice as wide when they saw my hair. I ran my hand through my spikes. One girl actually crossed herself when I walked by. He laughed.
Can you blame her? You look like you just crawled out of the grave.
Better than looking like I just stepped off the set of 1984, I fired back. The glow of the 28-cent hamburger stand's neon sign was now visible ahead. Kevin adjusted his tie while my crucifix earring dangled in the breeze. I glanced over at him. The The neon sign ahead cast strange shadows across his face, cutting in the deep Germanic features of his face. "You okay? You seem more, I don't know, wound up than usual." He was quiet for a few steps.
Mom's been on my case about my calc grade dropping to a B+.
He tried to make it sound casual, but I could hear the exhaustion.
If I don't keep the scholarship...
B+? That's insane, I said, thinking of my own comfortable C average.
Yeah, well, that's Mom. Everything has to be perfect.
He kicked at some loose gravel.
Dad says I could come live with him out in Elizabeth, but...
He trailed off. But you'd have to change schools, I finished. I knew about impossible choices between parents, even if my version came with the safety net his didn't have.
Can't afford Regis without the scholarship. Can't afford gas if I'm spending 3 hours a day commuting from Elizabeth.
He shrugged.
So, here I am, living up to Mom's expectations, unlike some of us who can afford to be artistic rebels.
He patted my back. There was no bite in his words, just a hint of envy mixed with genuine curiosity. I thought about telling him about my own parents' mess, about the fights over the tent, about Chris alone in that big house. But instead, I just said, being independent is not all it's cracked up to be either. The smell of grilling onions and burning hamburger grease drifted toward us. Kevin straightened his shoulders like he was shrugging off a weight.
At least the burgers are cheap,
he said.
Even if they're probably made of recycled gym mats.
I invited Kevin over to my home to hang out and crash for the night. He was visibly relieved at the invitation, him and his mom always in conflict. She tore him down daily, comparing him to his evil, rotten father who left her without 2 pennies to rub together. I picked him up at the front of his house, a disheveled single-floor white structure in a neighborhood with cracked sidewalks and broken roads. His mother insisted upon meeting me, in my Rustmobile, spiked black hair, eyeliner, and a dangly crucifix earring left quite the mark, according to Kevin later that week. "Hi, Miss Coke," I said cheerfully. Her scowl didn't leave her face. "When will you have Kevin home?" she asked abruptly, like he was my date.
He's not gay, Mom,
I heard Kevin argue.
Earring is in the left.
She looked to him, then to me. I was still smiling. Militant, inspecting me for any sign of indecency. I could understand why now Steve had nicknamed Kevin Rambo upon their first meeting. Steve tolerated Kevin, not understanding the deeper issues that Kevin's impenetrable wall of conservatism and structure was built upon. Kevin's mom held Kevin with a chain around his ankle, terrified that he would run off and leave her alone. I might just be that small threat that would take him away from her. Somehow, I recognized her emotional state well. "Miss Coke," I said, "he will be home tomorrow at noon, sharp," I promised. "My dad and sister are at home, and he won't let me get away with anything, other than my earring and makeup." Her face softened as an agreement was decided on. "All right, Kevin, you guys have a nice time. No alcohol," she yelled as we drove away. Kevin and I high-fived each other as the Rustmobile's V8 engine purred along Federal towards Colorado's famous Colfax Avenue. The back seat of the car littered with McDonald's wrappers and cups. There was a rumor that a creature lived under the trash.
How you doing back there, Frank?
Kevin turned towards the back seat and asked. We laughed. Colfax, a 20-mile commercial road like none other in the USA, it had its own ecosystem. From East Colfax to West, the street would change from the strip clubs and adult stores along East Fax, lit up like Vegas with prostitutes walking the street, to downtown Fax amid the towering skyscrapers, cash register tower, and the Capitol building with its unique gold leaf dome, and west of that, the iconic Casa Bonita, a Mexican-themed restaurant with cliff divers, caves, haunted house, and showroom, finally ending at the Western-themed small town of Golden, Colorado. Today, we'd be cruising the facts, a short-lived tradition combining thousands of high school kids from all over Denver and its metropolitan area to take that one Friday evening and celebrate the weekend. The road would be crammed, bumper-to-bumper traffic with kids hanging out windows, girls screaming, horns honking. This was the modern social media stream of memes and video clips, live and in person. Our window rolled down, the Rustmobile chugged along Colfax, Kevin letting loose, smiling at girls and waving at the crowds on the street. Parking lots filled with cars, beer cans tumbling down the road, and all others helpless to do anything about it. Once you were in, and you might as well just sit and enjoy the ride. Kevin got the phone number of a couple of girls. They yelled, "Where do you guys go to school?"
Regis!
Kevin cried out. "Isn't that where the rich kids go?" she yelled. "'Cause your car is a piece of shit."
Yes! Yes, it is! Do you want to ride?
"In that? Fuck no. But you can call me." The number was like a golden ticket to enter into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, to be ironed, laminated, and behind a glass frame. We eventually made our way to the interstate and headed north to my house. We were hungry and had no cash. Mac and cheese awaited us at home. We opened the front door to the house and were greeted by Peppy, our new husky chow mix. My sister loved her. My dad bought her to bring a little more joy into the house and, most likely, seduce Chris into spending more time there. But Peppy really became my dog. She excitedly jumped up on my leg until I gave her a pet, and she ran into the kitchen where my sister was sitting.
She was cute, don't you think?
Kevin asked me, studying the paper with the girl's number.
I wonder what her name is.
The paper only had the number. She wasn't bad. I only got a glimpse. You were the one hanging out the window, remember? I said. "Hey, Chris."
Hey, nerd.
My sister replied. Kevin looked up from the note with numbers on it and saw Chris. My sister no longer looked the part of a little girl. Her blonde curls caught the soft light from the dining room fixture, and that easy smile of hers lit up her whole face. She had this natural, carefree way about her, uncensored like her mother, reserved like her father, and free-spirited like her brother. Sometimes she couldn't decide who she was. Tonight, she was carefree and also interested in my new friend. It was funny watching Kevin try to maintain his usual formal demeanor while clearly being a bit thunderstruck. He kept straightening his posture, as if good posture might somehow impress her. I was used to my friends having this initial reaction when they met Chris, and honestly, so was she. "Kevin, this is my sister, Chris," I said.
Christine.
Chris corrected. "Kevin, Chris, Kevin," I said, ignoring her instructions.
It's a pleasure meeting you, Christine.
She gave me a smug, "I told you so" smile, squinting her eyes and furling her nose. I started making the mac and cheese while Kevin sat at the dining table with Chris, holding a polite and respectful conversation about where she goes to school, how she likes her school, where she lives, until I sat down with them with our noodles and cheese. Kevin was a bit of a cynic, and when he doesn't know what to say, when his tongue is tied, he likes to tease. And my sister was a bit naive, a match made in heaven, I suppose. At only 14 years old, it wasn't really all that difficult to make up a story and convince her that it was true.
Hey, Paul, remember that guy in our class with the really big nose?
Kevin asked me. Who?
That guy, you know, the one with the huge honker. He looks like a bird with a curved beak.
He winked in the eye that my sister couldn't see. "Oh yeah, that guy. What was his name again?"
Dan. I was telling your sister about him, how he had chronic neck problems because of his nose.
"Oh yeah, he always walked around campus looking down," I said. My sister chimed in.
You guys are kidding me, right?
No, it's true. This guy, Dan, got a bulging disc in his neck because his nose was so heavy. He needed surgery, and the doctors installed an iron plate in the back of his skull to counterbalance its weight.
It was my fault. The absurdity and my surprise at the iron weight. I tried to hold my laugh as long as possible. When Chris looked at me with a confused look in her blue eyes and partly open mouth, I couldn't hold my laughter and started cracking up. Kevin spit out his mac and cheese, laughed, and his head was on the table, fist pounding it, plates of noodles bouncing in unison.
Oh, ha ha,
Chris said in deadpan. She smiled, looked at me, and I knew right away that she was happy and felt like she belonged here. My sister had her developing personalities, and so did I. After school and on weekends, I rode my bike, a dedicated young man to improving himself physically, emotionally, and skillfully. I knew my bike inside and out, could disassemble and reassemble it in its entirety in only moments. When I wasn't cycling, my other personality emerged, the rebel. Making up from the social deficits from getting new braces, I spiked my black-dyed hair with Aquanet Extra Super Hold, wore my eyeliner thick, had not just one, but 2 earrings in the left ear, and challenged the Regis staff with my wardrobe choices. One day showing up in black pants. They were not jeans, but they had been bleached with the names of punk bands, and a shirt with collar, but carefully sliced and diced into multiple pieces and hemmed together with dozens of safety pins. There were a few looks of disapproval as I walked onto campus. One kid, the only other punk guy there, nodded his approval. Steve, the metalhead kid there, nodded his approval. My 3 friends, Timmy, Eric, and Mike, just gave a passing glance in acknowledgement of, "What's up, Fluff?" My first period teacher, not so impressed, sent me to Rosenbaugh, the dean of students. I was immediately jugged, judgment under God, or in layman's terms, given a detention, and sent home to change. And then there was the caring, kind Paul, who struggled to preserve connections between his family, relaying messages between dad and mom, willing to sit quietly and listen to their constant hatred of each other, and bringing Chris down from Evergreen to hang with friends. I also took a part-time volunteer position at a school for developmentally disabled kids. This was a challenging environment at first, with students completely unaware of theirs, slobbering on the floor, exposing themselves, screaming out of context, the constant rocking back and forth and hitting tables and walls. But at the end of each day, I left the school feeling proud of myself. The sun seemed brighter and the sky seemed bluer. This phenomena had always been explained to me by Dad when he left church. For me, it was helping people. I became proficient at this job. The students recognized me. They each developed their own personalities, and for each, I had a strategy to handle their simple tasks, like going to the bathroom or eating lunch. On the last day volunteering, I performed a magic show at the school. Their applause and laughter, while different from ordinary crowds, screams, jumping up and down, laughter and loud voices, seemed perfectly normal. On my last day in Regis, class of '85, I dressed the part, made sure my hair was freshly dyed and styled just right, my makeup applied to give the most impact, my clothes selected to advertise my favorite bands while still, barely, being dress code compliant. Got on the bus. It was too cold to ride and my Rustmobile was on empty. Before class, I went into the restroom and stood at the stall. The principal of the school came in, Father Snyder. We didn't talk much over the years, but today he was standing next to me. I tried to relax, but peeing wasn't going to happen right now. "Well, Paul," Father Snyder said, breaking the awkward silence at the urinals. "Last day, huh?" I nodded, still trying to will myself to pee. "Yes, Father." "You know, you've been quite the handful these past years." He chuckled softly. but I've always admired how you managed to walk that line, pushing boundaries while keeping your integrity intact. Not easy to do, especially with your father away so much. I finally gave up trying to pee and zipped up. Turning to the sink, I caught his reflection in the mirror. Life's thrown quite a bit at you, he continued, but you've handled it with, let's say, creative grace. He smiled at that last part, probably thinking of my various dress code interpretations. Thank you, Father, I said, meaning it. Just remember that spirit of yours. It'll serve you well out there. He dried his hands and headed for the door, then paused. And Paul, good luck. He left and I stood there. All this time, the teachers here really did care. Father Pilgrim's smothering hugs, Father Houlihan's attempt to help me find God, and Mrs. Coster's extra efforts to help me pass math and Spanish. I left the bathroom floating a bit, lighter. The weight of school and the weight of my rebellion and feeling always judged, washed away by his kind words and his understanding that I was just a teenager at heart, and most importantly, a good person. The last bell rang and the senior class cheered. The school shook with excitement and we all poured out. And, just like that day at St. Teresa's in Palatine, I walked home, leaving Regis behind and the memories it served. Planting seeds is a sales strategy that I learned many years later, and it's very effective for those of you getting ready to buy a house or a car. The art of planting seeds is designed to create a new reality, a controlled future. It's used in politics, in sales, and in many relationships. If you successfully plant the seeds of doubt, they will grow into paranoia. If you successfully plant the seeds of caution, they will grow into fear. And if you successfully plant the seeds of distrust, they will grow into hate. Mom was masterful in planting the seeds of distrust, convincing me that Dad would try to make me fill the void she left behind, to turn me into a replacement for the wife he had lost. She planted these seeds of suspicion and resentment, hoping they would grow into the same hatred she felt for him, a hatred that had fueled her massive betrayal of his trust. She planted the seeds. All she had to do now was wait.
Now, darling, the moon's gone blind. Stars are hiding, they're hard to find. Shadows crawl, they're soft as silk. Drink your dreams like sour milk. Entropy, entropy. A monster in the mirror sees. Whisper slow, whisper sweet. Will you dance or will you weep? Clock hands twitch, they've lost their way. Nighttime swallows the light of day. Under your bed the floorboards creak. What do they want? What do they seek? Don't look too close, don't make a sound. It's only the dark, it's all around. Entropy, entropy. A monster in the mirror sees. Whisper slow, whisper sweet. Will you dance or will you weep? Clock hands twitch, they've lost their way. Nighttime swallows the light of day. Under your bed the floorboards creak. What do they want? What do they seek? Don't look too close, don't make a only the dark, it's all around. Entropy.